it's looking like they're getting the upper hand in this fight.
Oh,
Although
that's
now
huge.
They lose. Man, huge play by Josh Techhelp here, really putting work for his team with that Winston ult, getting 3 kills with 2 with the ult and then the jump pack kill on the Genji afterwards.
The Florida Thieves are a very interesting team in Altitude Esports. While starting out as a laughingstock, they rebuilt many times and after 3 rebuilds, made one of the strongest, most destructive teams in Season 3. But let's see how they got there. The Florida Thieves are a team owned by Onda, a PR mod on the Discord server. Onda has some accolades such as being a role star back in Season 1, however the general public would not say he's in talk for the best flex DPS in the league. But that doesn't matter. Let's see his team. The first, 4 games for Florida were a mess. They looked uncoordinated, had to play ringers, and even had to off-roll, such as Onda having to play main tank. This is where we saw some of the infamous rebuilds of the Thieves. They just couldn't seem to keep a consistent roster together. And it's not even like these players didn't like each other, as one of the rosters actually went on to go form the core of the Hangzhou Hellfire led by Stonewall. Now, we know how that went, but regardless. The Thieves, they just couldn't get it done. And after losing the first 4 games of the season, many people thought that they were out of play-in, play-off, whatever you want to call it, talk for the rest of the season. But the people in Altitude had no idea what awaited them for the rest of the season. And this is where it all changed. And Onda, he was on a mission. He already had players such as Stormgig, Ray, and Cajun on his new roster. These were promising pieces, and in Cajun's case, a very proven talent, making it to the grand finals with Dallas Fried as a manager. He also brought on veteran presence in Gluttony, a former Dallas Fried member who made the grand finals with Cajun. The rookies he brought on, though, were, obviously since they were rookies, less than known. Orange Fish? Ginger? Josh Techhelp? Would these players be able to prove themselves against such monstrous talent in this league? Well, we'll see. Regardless, however, the roster of the Florida Thieves going into their 5th game consisted of Twice Geo, Stormgig, Josh Techhelp, Cajun, Orange Fish, Stealth, Onda, Ray, Gilliam, Ginger, and Gluttony. The Thieves' first game as a new roster was against the Chattanooga Chimps. This was a team that most people considered to be roughly C tier at the time, so many people thought that it was a winnable game for the Thieves, but people still didn't know the roster too well enough to be sure. But the Thieves, they were ready to prove themselves, and while the maps were very close, the Thieves were still able to clutch out a 3-0 and get their first win of the season. And since the Hangzhou Bang were actually discontinued, they got a free forfeit as well. This made the new roster already 2-4, but they had to keep grinding. In order for them to skip play-ins and get to the top 6 in the league, they would have to go perfect for the rest of the season. But their next game was ready to challenge that goal. Going into their next game of the season against the Philadelphia Phoenix, there was actually a new map and hero pool. The hero pool consisted of Orisa, Mei, Widowmaker, and Ana, and the map pool consisted of Ilios, Route 66, Kings Row, Volskaya Industries, Oasis, Busan, and Nepal. These things struggled the Thieves early on as they didn't know how to adapt to this new meta where they couldn't play double shield. However, this is where the power of Cajun really came in. Cajun was on a 3-week vacation, so he was unable to play for the team during the preparation for this game. However, what he couldn't play for, he made up in massive coaching. He helped them in comps, playstyle, and positioning of the Thieves and drastically improved their play. But the Philadelphia Phoenix, they were no joke. They had Sora 6k on the Genji and Atlas on the main tank, and the Thieves, they knew this game would be hard. And it was. A full 6-map thriller that was so back and forth with an ever-changing tide. There was a disconnect, bad roster decisions, and sloppy play which made this game pretty hard to watch. But regardless, the Thieves were still able to pull it out in the very end.
Win here in this heavyweight series. Sora killing Orange right away, although their tank goes down.
That's huge, Josh.
Huge Sigma ult by Josh right there. It looks like that might be it. The EMP is in, but I don't think it's enough. So Josh with a huge clutch play at the end there.
Just like that.
Wow.
Thieves win?
And on the plus side, this was the first game that the Thieves were streamed with this new roster, so the Altitude Esports viewers got to see how strong these Thieves really were. And this gave birth to a new star in Altitude, Josh Techhelp. Due to his gameplay on Sigma and Winston, Josh was instantly put in the talks for top 5 off-tank in the league, and this is where the Thieves were really put into the mainstream, and they were ready to show why. An important note, between the Philly game and the next scrim they had, Gilliam actually left the team Discord server and was dropped from the team, and while it sounds harsh to drop him, he left for no apparent reason. But this didn't stop Florida, not at all. But, I mean, their next game was supposed to be an even bigger challenge than the last. They were put up against the Beijing Lions. This was a team that was made up of the core of the Season 2 champions, New York Excel, and they were 8-0 at the time, and no one proved to stop them. But notice a word I said previously, that this game was supposed to be a challenge for the Thieves. But the Thieves were too strong. With Cajun coming back in on the main tank role, they had a bigger upgrade than ever and took a very strong start by taking Ilios and rolling through Route 66. And while they faltered on King's Row, they kept their cool and won Volskaya and took a 3-0 victory against the best team in the league. And just like that, Thieves, they destroyed the king of this jungle of Altitude and showed that they didn't want to just be a top team. They wanted to be the top team. Number 1. Another important note, after the Beijing game, the team decided that it was time that they get some extra coaching. They picked up Kana. This was a veteran player who was very well respected, who decided to try to give coaching a try. And, I mean, now the Thieves would have to prove themselves under a new patch, as between the Beijing game and their next match against the Boston Teabags, the new patch that nerfed Sigma and Orisa came in. People thought that this may slow down the Thieves, as Cajun and Josh Techhelp's coordination were such a big part of the team. But this meta only amplified their teamwork and also gave way for players like Orange Fish to really start to come into their own. And even though there was some trash talk before this game, and I mean some trash talk, the game against Boston proved to be no worries for the Thieves and took an easy 3-0, only extending their win streak. And fortunately for the Thieves, the Chengdu Bandits or New York Excalibur didn't prove to match the Thieves either. This meta wasn't really helpful for Chengdu or Excal, but regardless, the Thieves looked super strong and took clean 3-0s against both teams. And even though there were some hiccups, the Thieves proved to be unstoppable. Also, due to the drop of Gilliam, Florida was due for another support player, and they decided on Sleep, who transferred over from the Los Angeles Wave. Sleep was a super talented and flexible support player, which worked wonders for the Thieves, so it was a fantastic pickup. The last 2 games of the regular season for the Thieves was against the London Aces and the San Francisco Shook. Aces were considered probably the worst team in the league, and Shook were considered a forgettable mid-tier team. This gave many people the idea that Thieves could walk right through these teams, and for Aces, that was the case, taking the 3-0. The Shook game, however, was a different story. Around 20 minutes before the match was supposed to start, it was informed that Cajun, the starting main tank of the Thieves, would have a 1-map ban for the game due to toxicity. This wouldn't have been a problem if the other 2 main tank players for the Thieves could make it to the game, but they couldn't. They had other things to do. This meant that the team had to run Onda, a flex DPS player, on the main tank for the first map, and while it was close, Thieves lost the map. No worries though, right? Cajun is back and they'll be all set. This proved to work for the second and third map, where the Thieves took a decisive victory, taking a 2-1 lead. But Temple of Anubis is where it started to fall down, as it ended in a draw, and a very rough draw at that, as it was a C9. This crushed the mentals of the Thieves, and before they knew it, they were losing map 5, and eventually losing map 6.
The Canadian dies! The Shadow's completely free now from Excellent plus 95%. They can't even touch! The ground's in riddle! It's over!
It's all over! The San Francisco Shook are going to somehow 3-2 the Florida Thieves! What? That was amazing! Oh, extra love on this Reinhardt doing everything he can. MTD across the board.
This is a series that should have been won, no matter the map ban or PC issues that players like Cajun had. Either way, the Thieves lost, and they were going into a postseason with a terrible monkey on their shoulder, ending the regular season 8-5. The night after the defeat was August 30th, 2020, and this is one of the craziest nights for the Florida Thieves, but we'll get to that later. For starters, this loss really made the Thieves' chances at skipping the play-in bracket really hard, as now teams like the New York Excalibur, San Francisco Shook, and Chattanooga Chimps all had chances to take it from them. The first 4 teams to clinch their spots was the Excalibur, taking a 3-2 victory over the Chattanooga Chimps in 6 maps. This locked New York in their number 2 spot and eliminated the Chimps from top 3 contention. It was all up to the San Francisco Shook, who in order to make top 3 needed to 3-0 the Boston Teabags. This wouldn't have been an easy task if it wasn't for the fact that the Boston Teabags just rebuilt after disbanding, and it was looking like one of the easiest opponents yet. But the Teabags became friends with the Thieves and took a map off Shook, and secured the Thieves' spot in skipping the play-in bracket. And now, despite the loss, the rebuild was worth it, and the Thieves and Onda turned around their season, going into the playoffs as the 6th seed. And even though people had their doubts, they were going into the playoffs looking good. But now that we're done with that, remember how I said that this night was still crazy for the Thieves? Well, on the same night that they clinched the 6th seed, something was brewing behind the scenes. For starters, Sleep, their newly acquired support player, was transferred back for the Los Angeles Way for personal reasons. This was fine, and there was no hatred between him and the roster at all. But here's where it really got interesting. Cajun, a member known for his toxicity and ego, told the staff team to give him the team owner role to complete some pickups while Onda was asleep. The staff did this assuming Onda knew the pickups Cajun was going to make, but Onda didn't know, and Cajun made a flurry of roster moves such as picking up Ruka from the Dallas Fried and Dabmaster 66 from the Boston Teabags. This led Onda to threatening to drop Cajun and anyone who would leave with him from the team. But luckily, Onda didn't drop Cajun. He instead dropped twice Geo due to his inability to commit to a team because of school, and picked up a main tank Bink to replace him. So while this night was crazy, they couldn't dwell on it. They had a postseason to win. And now the playoffs were here. The Thieves' first match was to go up against the number 3 seeded Los Angeles Gladiators. This team was filled with amazing players across the board and should prove to be one of the Thieves' toughest matches yet. But the Thieves, they prevailed. Due to another meta switch, it was now a meta that centered around Winston, Diva, Sombra, Lucio, and Moira. This put many players like Cajun and Gluttony on their comfort picks, and players like Ruka and Bink fit well into their new roles in the team. But the real focus was on Orange Fish. This guy has never, and I mean never, shown an ounce of Sombra talent before, but when he started playing Sombra for Florida, there was no going back. He was just so good on her. Crucial hacks and amazing communication made him one of the best Sombras in the league, and even though a disconnect almost cost them King's Row, the Thieves managed to take the win 3-0, saying that that loss against Shook was far behind them, and they were ready to overcome whatever came their way. The Thieves' next opponent was against the Shanghai Shenanigans in the winners semifinals. This was looking to be an epic match with 2 titans of teams, both looking to secure a spot in the winners finals. It was a rough match to start out for Florida, as they went down 0-2, losing some of their best maps like Busan and losing Junkertown for the first time this season after they were previously 6-0. But the Thieves, they were not ready to lose, and were narrowly able to bring the series back, tying it 2-2. This was mostly due to Cajun being subbed in, as his aggressive playstyle just worked so well for Florida. However, in the final round of Ilios, the Thieves just could not get it done.
Stop this push a little bit. And the death box in the back by Nephi. It finds Sue, it finds both supports. Bomb over the top, not finding anything from Josh as 2 more kills come in here from Shanghai. And now they're going to retake with 99%. The Orange Fish can't stay alive. Overtime ticking down. Josh won't be able to touch. And the 7th seed Shanghai Shenanigans move themselves to the winners finals.
This made them fall into the losers bracket to face the Vancouver Vibe. This is a match that basically everyone had the Thieves winning pretty convincingly, but for the first time in probably ever, the Thieves were off. Yes, they had lost 2 games, but it still never felt like the team themselves were off. They just normally got outplayed. But for some reason this game, they just couldn't play normally. They fell 0-3 to Vibe, the first time the team had ever been swept, and this ended their playoff run in such an embarrassing fashion, and ended their season 5th through 6th place.
Wow. I was really expecting, like, you know, a solid fight in there, but they were just ready, and they just stomped on them.
Yeah,
Wow.
Cajun, he definitely performed better
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping for a redemption arc, but Vibe just
I mean, well,
Stop
don't get me
it.
wrong. What?
All in all, Florida Thieves had a weird season. On one end, a powerful roster turned around a season that looked to be completely gone. But on the other hand, the latter half of their season was filled with drama, and they left the playoffs with such a disappointing match. However, you cannot undermine what Florida did and the amazing games they brought to Altitude. My final score for the Florida Thieves this season is a 7.5 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching, and I really appreciate it. Next time, we will be looking at the New York Excalibur just to see how their season went down.